Now, I never would have thought that the luxury entry-level SUV segment would have been crowded by its EV derivative so fast and so soon. It all started with the Volvo XC40 Recharge and it was later joined by its coupe sibling, the C40 Recharge. Then came the BMW iX1 and just recently we also have the Mercedes-Benz EQA. Now this segment is joined by yet another contender, and now this fourth contender, it comes from a very unlikely manufacturer. Hello and welcome back to Car and Bike. I'm Bilal and this is the all-new Mini Countryman EV. Now I say unlikely because the Mini Countryman has always been an understated product in the luxury entry-level SUV segment. And now this, the third generation one, it comes to India as a CBU but in an EV only derivative. So in this video, you and I are going to see the Mini Countryman EV in detail. We'll see its exterior design, we'll see the new cabin it comes with, and we'll also see how it is to drive, and we'll answer one question. Should you pay attention to it when we have three other very good options? Now let's begin with the design and dimensions first. Now as we all know, Minis, they're not mini anymore, and this Countryman is the biggest Mini there ever was. In fact, this third generation Countryman, it's slightly bigger than the older one and it shares the same platform as the BMW iX1. As we know, the Mini brand is part of the BMW group. So the Countryman, it shares the same production line as the electric BMW. And as for the design, I really love the way this hunkered design of the new Countryman is carried over from the older, slightly curvaceous design, but there's more muscle now. The headlamps, it has edgier bits to it, and there's new DRL. It also gives it a very hunker style. And overall, the face, it has a new Mini styling. The grille, it has a hexagonal shape and it has a new surround. Now this surround finish, it's also seen on the lower bumper and on the logo as well. And overall, I like this hunkered design of the new gen Countryman. It might not look like much in pictures or in videos, but in flesh, it is a handsome face. But what do you think? Let us know in the comment section below. Now we move to the side, and I also love the side profile of this new Countryman. The flat roofline, the high girth, those 19-inch alloy wheels which are again done in the same gloss finish that we saw on the grille surround, those flush door handles and the Mini characteristic blacked out pillars, it gives it a really nice stance. It looks stately, but more stately is at the back. Now as I mentioned, there's no characteristic shoulder crease, but I really like how this window line, it starts from the A pillar and it comes all the way here where this body, it sticks out from the pillar, and then the floor, that flat roof line, it tends to slope down just in the end, and it ends in a really nicely sculpted roof mounted blacked out spoiler. Now this rear windscreen, it might appear small, but it gives you good visibility on the inside, which I'll talk about when we'll sit inside. Now this squarish tail lamp, it might not appear too large for the entire dimension of the car, but it has nice LED pixels in it. And if you look closely, again, new Minis, they are paying tribute to the Union Jack, and it has a lightning signature very akin to it. The overall design of this rear three-quarter or the rear of this Countryman, it gives you a very nice stately appeal. It looks royal, and in my personal opinion, this is a handsome looking car amongst the other very general looking electric SUV in its segment. You can also have this family Mini in 9 funky color options. So once you step inside, the first thing that you notice is the lack of an instrument cluster. There's no driver's display here at all. Everything is inculcated inside this touchscreen, and we'll talk about the touchscreen in detail in a few minutes, but bear with me for now. Now the steering wheel, it's again shared with the BMW iX1, but it has a new Mini theme to it. Now that theme, it comes from the logo in the center, but more importantly, there is a third spoke, and it's not a physical spoke, it is a strap. It's a cloth strap on the steering wheel. Now I'll give a benefit of doubt to Mini because EVs are changing the perspective of how you live with a car or how you drive a car. So putting a strap on a steering wheel, there's no MID or even this material used around here. It's completely novel and it again feels futuristic, yet it has a retro vibe to it. Now this is a modern day EV, so sure, every material here is recycled, right? But more importantly, the soft touch material that you see here, it's not conventional. It has a cloth finisher throughout the dashboard, throughout the door pads, and it's not just any cloth. It has a very rag-like feel to it. It feels rough to hold or touch, but it also feels quite rugged. Now this mesh-like finish or this infusion of two colors here on the door pad, it might not be likable to some, but it has a good combination. There's a blue and there's brown, and which gels together quite uniquely, and unique is the theme of Mini nowadays, so I'll give them that. Even the door handle, it has a flush finish like on the outside, and the finish on it, it is again that tungsten, that rose golden finish. It's also seen on the steering as well. It's also seen on the center cup sole or here on the cup holders. There's more space behind it, and the center armrest, it moves forward. That's only thing that you can do because there's no space underneath it. And the USB port, the type C USB port, it's placed slightly awkwardly here at the back. I can't see that port, but luckily the wireless charging pad, it has illumination on it, and it looks really nice, especially at night when you place your phone and you can see those illumination on the either side of it. The entire, again, as I said, the attention to detail inside the cabin, it's nice, it's funky and futuristic. Now before we talk about the touchscreen, let's talk about the seats. Now these seats, they don't have adjustable headrest, but the seats in themselves, they are taken from the Cooper lineup, but they are large in size, so they have good support on the back. The bolsters on the side, they also hug you in the right places. Again, this being an EV, the batteries are stored underneath, so the floor height is slightly higher, which gives you a slightly awkward driving position, but for my frame, I'm not complaining. And now we come to the most important update or highlight of this generation of Minis, and it has to be this touchscreen. Now it measures 240 mm in diameter, but don't ask me the inches because it's not a square inch. Secondly, the touchscreen, it is sleek. In fact, it looks like Mini has stuck a disc onto the center console. And the interface it's running, it's called the operating system 9, and it's again based on the same operating system 9 that BMW uses in their cars. Now BMW uses a flat touchscreen that runs across the dashboard, but the Mini, it goes back to its heritage. Now the older Minis, the first generation of Minis, they never had a driver's display. It only had one circular dial in the center with an analog needle. Now it has this new touchscreen. It has tried to mimic it in many ways. Now let's talk about the touchscreen in itself first. It has all the controls that you would ask from a car because there are no physical buttons here. The AC is integrated into it, the voice command is integrated into it, and all the infotainment system, all the music system, it's also right there. Now you do have some physical buttons on what Mini calls as toggle island. You have volume rock on it, there's a drive mode button, and there's a in system start stop button along with the brindle. Now I'm personally not a fan of this toggle switch for drive modes, but again, as I said, EVs are a way forward and they can experiment over a conventional way you shift gears. So this toggle switch is what you get here. Now coming back to the touchscreen, and I'll start with all the problems that I have with it first. Now the first problem that I have with it is the user profile, and that makes it slightly laggy. Now when you switch the user profile, it takes some time to settle in, and that's understandable because it has a lot of graphics in it, because this entire interface, it's made with a very new generation in mind. Everything, it's made like there's an app for the kids. There's a lot of animation. Even when you navigate through the function, the car coming in, the text flowing out, there's a lot of animation going on. So this lagginess is expected, and it might be sorted in the future models. It looks good, looks fantastic, looks modern and very vibrant. The second grudge I have, now in BMW, even the simplest function, you have to navigate through a lot of icons. It's the same case here. For simplest function, you have to search through the interface because there's a lot going on around here. And the likable thing about this interface is that it has individual modes, similar to what you get in a BMW. Each mode has a separate personality where it changes the entire theme of the cabin. Similarly, what you get here is experiences, and you can control it through this toggle switch. Now, when you toggle through the modes, there are many here. It starts with go-kart, and go-kart is basically a sport mode, and each mode has a different sound attached to it. For example, we are in the go-kart, and again each profile has a different sound. That personalization, it makes you feel special. You have your own favorite mode, and when you select that mode, the entire theme of the cabin changes. I personally am a fan of the timeless because it changes the center console into that original center console that mini cars that used to come with. So overall, this Mini Countryman's cabin, again, it has a very unique characteristic to it. Like all the other EVs in the segment, they all have a different personas. This one, it also deserves your attention. So before you select any of the EVs, you should give this one a try. Now the Countryman is a mini for the family, so it has 4 doors. But I wish the rear door, it opens slightly wider so that the old people or people with knee problems or someone laterally blessed, they can get inside slightly more graciously. Once inside, you'd realize that this is an EV battery placed underneath the floor, so a raised floor height. I don't mind this awkward position in all the EVs. I wouldn't mind it over here as well. Now, as for the seat in themselves, they are comfortable. It has soft cushioning, good recline angle, and the space I have on offer is also ample. I am 5.5 and I have ample amount of headroom. The legroom isn't too bad with the front seat set to my driving position, and the visibility isn't half too bad. The windows are large, but I wish the rear 3/4, it has a sticker on it. If it didn't, the rear 3/4 and the large panoramic sunroof would have increased the visibility to quite a good extent. You also get 450 liters of boot space at the back, so the family of 4 traveling for a weekend getaway can easily pack an ample amount of luggage. Now internationally, the 3rd generation Countryman that we are driving, it's available in both derivative, ICE and EV. And even the EV version, it has 2 setups. There's a dual motor setup and a single motor setup. What we're driving here is the latter. In India, we get the front wheel mounted single motor setup, which is an output of around 200 horsepower and 250 Newton meter. It is fed through a battery of a capacity 66.5 kilowatt hour. Now, if you're interested, it's the same capacity that you get in a BMW iX1. Now, the iX1, it is a dual motor setup. It gets all-wheel drive and it is surely more powerful. But even here in the Mini Countryman, you don't feel that you are short on power. The response from the front wheel mounted motors is quick and precise, and it's quite linear as well. Now, even if you're not in the sportiest drive modes, of which there are many, the response from the motors, it's very quick. Like, you don't expect a family EV of this size and this weight to accelerate with such ferocity. Now, the only issue that you might face is when you try to go hard, and which is quite easy to do, just one tap on the throttle and it races towards the horizon. But when you're doing that, the front tends to lift up, and when it does lift up, it loses traction on its driven wheel, which is the front wheel. And when it does that, it might scatter around a bit, and that might make you nervous if you're not used to it. But apart from that, if you know how to handle a front wheel driven motor with 200 horsepower putting down on the road, it is a very fun to drive EV. Now, as I mentioned earlier, even in the comfiest or the eco mode, if you're driving, the power doesn't feel restricted at all. In fact, if you shift to the sportiest setting, that is the go-kart setting here, it feels like it doesn't have 200 horsepower or even 250 Newton meter of twisting force. It has double of that, because the way it accelerates, it's not just ferocious, it's brutal at times. And when you do really want to have fun behind the wheel, with family on board, again, it won't disappoint. In modern day EVs, how well your brake energy regeneration is managed also plays a vital role in how the EV is to drive. In the Countryman EV, like the iX1, there are 3 steps to control brake energy regeneration. Or you can directly select adaptive and let the system decide how well you want the regeneration to be. In everyday driving condition, it's slightly jerky, and even the one pedal setup needs a little more refinement as it is too harsh on braking and needs a considerable throttle input to get going back again. Now you would be reminded that this is a Mini and you would expect a go-kart like handling. But this one, it's bigger, it has 2 extra doors and a proper bench at the back. So yeah, right off the bat, the steering, it's slightly light and it might not appear as direct or as precise as its two-door coupe brethren. But again, it goes only 2.5 turns lock to lock and there's barely any delay. So it's not exactly precise, but it is quick and it is quick to response. And even if you are maneuvering it inside the city traffic, it does tend to wrap around you. It doesn't feel ungainly, this added weight, this added dimension, and the visibility all around is also good. Now as for the ride quality, it is a Mini after all, and as you would expect from a Mini, although it is a family Mini, it is on a stiffer side. You feel all the roads bumps and irregularities and all the creases quite prominently on the inside. It is riding on 19-inch wheels after all, and these ones are optional extra as I mentioned earlier. So if you want slightly better pliant ride, you might be happy settling for the 17 inches which is offered as standard. But in my personal opinion, those 19 inches wheels, they do look good in the overall stance of the Mini Countryman, and I would be happy to compromise ride quality which isn't exactly too bad or too suffering. Now lastly, it's an EV, so there are obvious questions about its range. Now Mini claims a range of around 530 kilometers under WLTP, but we know that this battery pack, it's the same one as you get in the BMW iX1, and the iX1, with its more power, it can actually realistically go more than 400 kilometers in a full charge. And here in this Countryman EV, it has slightly less power than the iX1. So we do expect a real world range of way above 400 kilometers in the real world conditions. And that is a good figure to have, especially when you have the rivals such as the Volvo, which can go over 500 kilometers. So overall, the Mini Countryman EV, then, it's a good car to have in your garage. In fact, it can be your one-car garage because it has a good range. It will go close to 400 kilometers in a single charge. It is good to drive. It is comfortable for everyday commutes, be it to your office, dropping kids to school, or even if you occasionally decide to go on weekend getaway, it can do it all. And that's all you need from your premium luxury electric crossover, right? Now you can buy the 2024 Mini Countryman EV in India for a price of 54.9 lakh rupees ex-showroom. It is available in one variant only and it takes the CBU route. And as I mentioned since the start, that this one has the Volvo Recharge Twins, the BMW iX1 and the Mercedes-Benz EQA in its eyesight. Now the previous generation Countryman was always the underdog. It was the overlooked crossover because it had a lot of shortcomings. And the competition that it had, they were well established at that time. But now with this EV transition, the playing field has leveled. And with this EV transition, the Countryman EV, it has also created a new persona, a new character for itself like every other EV. And the one that the Countryman EV has created for itself, it definitely deserves your attention if you are looking to buy a premium luxury crossover under 60 lakh rupees. Now what works in the favor of the Mini Countryman EV is its attention to detail that it has carved for itself. It's even good to drive, and the practical cabin, it just makes the whole package that much sweeter. Now I admit it has an uphill task of finding its way in the heart of the buyers, especially among its tough competition. But if you do give it a chance, I'm sure the Countryman EV, it won't disappoint. Now that's all from me in this video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, do hit that like button and share this video forward, especially with those who's looking to buy a luxury EV crossover. And if you have any other questions regarding this Mini Countryman or any other car that I mentioned in this video, or you want such similar videos on any other specific car, do write them down in the comment section below, and I promise we will be happy to oblige. That's all from me in this video. This is Bilal signing off. Until next time.